Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's special webinar on intentionality in leadership, leading with purpose, clarity, and impact. And I am privileged to be your moderator for today. My name is Lorna Abaki, one of the co-authors of Why Intentionality Matters book, as you can see. In today's workplace, many teams are highly active, but not always aligned. Leaders are executing, but not always intentional. And in a fast changing environment, lack of intention leads to lack of clarity and eventually lack of impact. That is why intentionality matters. As Peter Drucker once said, the best way to predict the future is to create it. And creation requires intentional leadership. And that's why we are here. Today we explore how intentionality, clarity, and impact come together to strengthen leadership at every level. And before we start, a few housekeeping rules. Remember that this session is being recorded for future reference. And please engage with us using the chat feature down below. Ask your questions. As the webinar is continuing, please do engage us using any questions and we will surely answer you. So let me briefly introduce the co-authors joining us today. These are women who are living a life of intentionality. They're leading, they're loving, and living a life of impact and, of course, intentionality. Our co-authors are going to introduce themselves. We're going to start with you, Claire. Claire Munene is one of the co-authors of Why Intentionality Matters. Kindly briefly introduce yourself, Claire.
Thank you, Lorna. Hello, everyone, and welcome once more to this webinar. My name is Claire Munene. I'm currently the Chief Experience Officer at Ajua, which is a company that delivers customer excellence through software as a service as one of our core deliverables. And so customer excellence is everything in the business, at the core of the business we do. My background is actually still in the leadership space, still in customer excellence mainly, but having worked across product marketing, business development, and also having done training in the same field as well. And I'm happy to be here with these amazing ladies to discuss this core topic for all of us.
Thank you so much, Claire. Now we go back to you, Lilian Machanga. Kindly briefly introduce yourself.
Thank you, Lorna. My name is Lilian Machanga. Thank you for joining us. I'm an internal auditor in the financial services space. Something that I've been doing for the past 17 years. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lilian Machanga. Now we go to Winnie Muchomba. Kindly introduce yourself.
Thank you, Lorna, and welcome. My name is Winnie Muchomba. I am a leader, seasoned leader in the insurance industry. I have currently 14 years in experience in the audit, risk, and compliance roles. And beyond my career life, I am also a parent. I am privileged and grateful to God to be parenting 3 wonderful children, and I am also married. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Winnie. Thank you so much to our exciting panelists. And to begin, I'd like to each of us to answer one question just for icebreaker. Because many people have been asking, what is intentionality? We've been talking about intentionality. But what does intentionality mean to you as a leader? We can start with you, Claire Munene.
Thank you, Lorna. I think intentionality at a high level, as a leader, for me, what it means is being deliberate about why. And that dictating the how and the what and the where, of what I do as a leader. And having sessions deliberately to connect to that why for myself. So there's the organization one at the top, and then it also cascades to you as a leader and determining how you will cascade that to the rest of your team so that they too can connect their whys to the overall organizational why. That's what it means for me.
Wow, thank you. What about you, Lilian?
Thank you. Intentionality for me means having a direction or having a purpose or the why of why you're doing the various things whether it's in your professional space, whether it's you being a parent, whether it's you being a leader in the community, then there's a reason that is directing all your efforts.
Thank you. Thank you to you, Winnie.
I think for me, intentionality is all about being conscious of the actions that we're taking. Action here means just going about what it is that you want to do. And I think it's also not being so random in terms of just living on autopilot. I think for me, being that conscious about the actions that you're taking will help us also reduce the distractions and also help you live with some purpose. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much. What I'm getting from all of you is about clarity. The clarity is very, very key when it comes to intentionality and you being an intentional leader. And when we see clarity is critical in today's fast changing world, I'll just ask you, Claire, what role does clarity play in terms of decision making, and how can leaders communicate complex strategies in a way that inspires confidence?
I think clarity, to be honest, would be the number one. It's the kickoff point. Like when you start a soccer game, there's the ball in the middle and then you kick off as the leader. And what is your kickoff? Clarity. It is seeking alignment across your team, breaking down the complex message to each and every team member in a way that they can consume it so that the team is aligned in the delivery, just like in football. And you can tell I like football, eh? Just like in football, a defender knows what their role is. The striker knows what their role is. And before they hit the game, they together in their locker rooms, they're briefed on what each and every one of them is expected to do in play for success. That's what it means for me, even from a leadership perspective. Breaking down to each and every team member in bite-sized consumption that they are aligned what their role in play, in delivery or execution is.
Great. So before we go to the breaking down, I'll just indulge you, Lilian. You work at a very sensitive office. Audit people feel that it's quite subjective to them. And how do you balance transparency with discretion when leading through sensitive situations?
Thank you. I think the first thing is to understand is you're leading people or you're part of an organization, they are people. So doing it with empathy and understanding the role that you play in terms of confidentiality. So being able to segregate information that you give. For instance, in my case, there's what will be discussed at board level, there's what will be discussed with senior management, and there's also what will be discussed with the actual people doing the work and knowing how all this fits in.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much. And in terms of tools and practices, Winnie, what have you found most effective in terms of the tools and the practices that are effective for creating clarity in this fast changing environment?
I think for me, it's about making the intentions very clear, being very clear about what it is that you want to achieve as a company. And when you talk about clarity and how clear or how transparent you basically want these actions done, I think also breaking them down into very simplified actions so that everyone understands what it is that they are achieving. At the end of the day, when you look at the bigger picture, it might not be as clear as when you literally break it down into small actionable steps. And I think also mindfulness, basically just being present in everyone's activity, just bringing the clarity also. It helps a lot so that you're also able to understand and listen clearly to what exactly your team members want at the end of the day, so that it's not only about listening so that you can provide an answer, but you want to understand what is it that is actually impacting the team members.
Wow. Great insights. What I'm getting is it's important to seek alignment with your team if you're working with teams, breaking down to each and every team member to be able to understand the vision clearly of your team and also being present and mindfulness. Great, great, great insights. In regards to that, in terms of habits, what practical habits has helped you as a leader to live intentional daily? Anyone can start. What practical habits could you tell us that you lived by to become more intentional in your life?
I can start as well. I think for me, and it's a realization that I've gotten over time, it's defining success at a very personal level. Because what happens in our world today, because of social media and the fact that the global village is becoming much closer to us, then that comes with a lot of noise or a lot of influence. But at a very personal level, you need to be sure or you need to know what success means to you, because that is going to be different person to person. And also by fact that you will also be plugging into a bigger community. If you're an employed person, then you still have to feed into the company's goals and objectives, but also you are an individual person. Yes, so you need to be able to separate or have segments.
Wow.
If I can look at it, for me, habits is what I live day to day. I agree. So I would guess my habit would be to put down what it is that I do intentionally. And I'll explain. So I have journals, and anyone who knows me knows that I always have a little book. And not only do I have it in the meetings, but I have a separate one, which is a habit annually that talks to the different areas of my life, the different facets of my life. So the same way we have planning ingrained within us as organizations and as leaders in organizations to be able to deliver a strategy, I also try to design a strategy for myself as an individual. So looking at myself and my entire journey, 360-degree view, as a mother, as a parent, what do I intend to focus on in that year? What do I intend to focus on, in the business? What do I intend to focus on personally? What are my health goals, for example? So I define those and make them realistic at the beginning of the year. And I have learned over time, they should not be too many. That way you're able to deliver against them. In each area, I try not to have more than 3. Some only have 1, even for the year. And then once that is broken down, like we talked earlier, breaking it down and now coming up with a plan, I end up with a plan. Now I've perfected it to what are the top 5 things I will do in this year to be able to deliver against X, and working that down through to those activities, and then doing a check-in. The same way we do check-ins for performance, at corporate level, doing a check-in quarterly, and that time is pre-blocked on my calendar. Normally, I take a day of work and go somewhere to sit and review and see how well have I done. And when I do things, I check them off against that list, even in that journal. Do I get them all checked off yearly? I know that's what you're thinking about. No. But can you imagine if you even do 50% of that? You are delivering by design against your life. So that's how I handle it.
I love that. I love that aspect. Defining your goals, and they should be smart goals.
I think for me, it would be again the daily actions. I think at the end of the day, it's necessary for us to always reflect. What is it that at the end of the day that have we achieved? I think that's very important for us. So I think reflecting back, what is it that I can do to improve what I missed previously? What is it that I can do maybe to avoid the same mistakes that I did previously? What can I do more? I think that reflective thinking comes in handy, and also not to forget also taking a rest. I think that's also very important to put that in your schedule to note that even as we are as leaders, as we continue with our intentional living, that there is always a time for rest. There is always that time that you put aside to rest, because at the end of the day, when your energies are low, you will not deliver. You will not be intentional in how you live. So I think that's also something very important for me.
Thank you. Very important. You can't pour from an empty cup, indeed. And all of you have been speaking about being intentional and having those daily actions. But let's look at the aspect of purpose, because many people know intentionality And purpose, people are wondering, purpose is the foundation of intentional living or leadership, sorry, of intentional leadership. And how do you personally define purpose driven leadership? And what practical steps can leaders take to align their teams with a shared purpose? Some of you mentioned in terms of breaking it down, but I would love us to just delve into this aspect of purpose and leadership.
Yeah, I think when you talk to purpose and leadership, purpose is pretty much the why. It's the North Star. Why are we doing this? What is the mission? What is the objective? When you look at intentionality and its connection to purpose, for me, intentionality is the lever that ensures that I meet my purpose, that I work towards my purpose, that I am on purpose, I am talking to purpose, and that's how I look at it, because intentionality actually gives the plan, helps you design the plan that ensures you meet your purpose or your goals. So that's how I would look at it at a high level.
It's the why, it's the why. Really, and just before you answer that question, I want you to delve into the practical steps that leaders can take to align their teams with a shared, because you've worked with many teams. We would love to get your input.
Yes, and I think that's such an interesting question because you'll find at an organizational level. Let me use an organization to illustrate what I mean. You will have the shared purpose that will most likely be communicated with your vision or mission of the organization. But then, not everyone will have will be doing the same thing to achieve the vision or purpose. So the responsibility of a leader is to illustrate to the team how everyone plugs into this mission and vision. So, for instance, you will have, like myself, sitting in audit, is to make sure that controls are in place, and that is important because of sustainability of the organization. But then you will have someone else sitting in marketing who is responsible for bringing in the clients. They are also important. And then you will have someone like, for instance, the role that Claire plays in customer service. That is important because of retention. So a leader needs to be able to demonstrate to the entire organization how everyone plugs in, and understanding that we are part of one unit and no person is greater than the other, because that is important. Then you give everyone a purpose of the why, understanding how they fit in and why it's important for them to bring their 100% in terms of the work that they do. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. It's very important to include and involve everyone when it comes to sharing the purpose. And for you, Winnie, what challenges have you faced in maintaining purpose during times of uncertainty, and how did you overcome them in your own organization or even the organizations that
I think for me, and yes, I agree with the co-authors when they say that clarity basically or purpose basically goes hand in hand with clarity. It basically just means that we know why we are actually leading, and also we know what is it that we stand for in terms of our values. I think for me the challenges have been living or operating on autopilot. I think there are times when you find yourself, because of the overwhelming maybe demands that are there, you do not pause to basically think about what is it you're doing, why are you doing what you're doing. Sometimes even in organizations, you will find that yes, they have say procedures in place, they have processes in place, but no one asks themselves, why are we doing what we are doing?
Yes.
I think it's very key to for every one of us to always ask ourselves, why are we doing what we are doing, so that it's not only about just running in or operating in autopilot. You're just doing it because it's just there. I think that has been the greatest challenge that we need to basically work on, and how we work on it is basically just pausing and just thinking about what is it that we are doing, why are we doing it, is it adding any value to our lives. And I think that's very key. And I think the other thing that we also need to think about in terms of the challenges is also losing sight of the bigger picture. Sometimes we are only thinking about the small activities that we do without connecting it to the larger picture. What is our end goal? At the end of the day, the daily actions that we are doing, what is our end goal? And I think that also comes in handy. Also, when we are thinking about also consistency, how we do it is just ensuring that we are consistent in our daily activities. We are always reminding ourselves of our initial purpose. What's the purpose of all this? I think that's how I'd say the challenges that are there and how I would overcome them.
Great insights there about consistency. And I just want to pose a question. Maybe there is a leader there and they're running on autopilot. They are feeling that they have maybe delivered the vision to their teams, but they're wondering now the team is not enthusiastic at all about it. What are those tools or practices that you found most effective for creating clarity in this fast changing environment at work? So everyone will just answer with their own. What are those practical tools that you have used? Because you're there as a leader, but you're running on autopilot. You've tried your best. You've done everything. You've been consistent. You have communicated the vision to your team, but still there's something that is lacking.
Okay, I think maybe I could just follow it up. I think for me, it's that continuous alignment basically with your team. I have been reading a book, your five next moves. It's basically the author is Beth David. So basically, what it talks about is that you keep reminding your employees about the vision, so that every single time and practically it means like in every discussion, in every meeting that you're holding as an organization or as a department, you'll just bring them together and ask, why are we doing what we are doing? Let's just understand why we are doing what we are doing before everything, and it will completely get embedded in people's minds that indeed this is the reason. And also, when we are also formulating policies, it should not be a top down always. It should be more consultative, such that people own it, such that people understand what it is that we have put in place. I think that also comes in handy when you talk about why we need people to come in and ensure that we are actually walking the same journey together. Yeah.
Maybe if I could pick up from you, Winnie, you begin from clarity, and I absolutely agree. The clarity, remember, was defined at the time you were given a mission and you got KPIs, and so now we are talking about every day how you ensure that people stick to it. And I think like one of the ways I found very helpful or effective is being able to have check-ins, but check-ins that are easier. And like you said, they're initiated both ways. Either you as the leader can initiate them, or you can have a lunch, book a coffee. I found it helps. It's a lot of effort, I agree, but the results are amazing. Where we say, oh, next Tuesday, it's time, feel free to invite me for us to sit down for a coffee in the morning before we start work somewhere. And I also advocate for it not being the office. The office has this way of turning us, like you said, into those autopilot beings, but into a more relaxed environment that will make it easier to be able to discuss. And at that environment, now check in on, are we still working? What's our journey towards as we work towards X? What's working? What's not? What's not working? Can we stop? And what do we need to do to replace the thing that is failing? Otherwise, there will be continued failure, and maybe come up with a new strategy. Probably had a plan B, and as we review that, what can we accelerate? Because maybe some things are working, and now we can actually accelerate. We can amp those things, amplify them, that we now see more gains. And then set up sometime, how best can I support you in meeting that, even as a leader, in making it easier for you to work, in opening doors to certain places and people that may ensure that you are successful. And then closing that out with also understanding, and how has the connection to your individual why gone? Because I've discovered that many times we don't also keep aligning to, are we meeting the why of the people we work with? Because if you're not, two things happen. They disconnect, or you have attrition, they leave. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes. I think for me, it's understanding that the mission or the objective still remains. How you achieve it can be changed. And this is because there's the element of risk. You had the intention of, let's say, bringing um, 10 million customers. But then the market has shifted. Either you have competition that has joined the market that you hadn't anticipated, or you hadn't anticipated that that's how it's going to affect you as an organization. So it's taking a pause and saying, there's a risk to us meeting our objective. So how can we adjust our plans to be able to make sure that we still achieve? Because the mission and the purpose must be achieved.
Yes.
The how might change, but achievement must happen. Yeah.
I like speaking about achievements. We all talk about impact, and impact is the ultimate measure of leadership.
Yes.
Forget about the financial impact. How do you measure the impact of intentional leadership beyond the financial metrics? We can just start with you.
It's interesting, and I like the conversations that has been happening globally in terms of what is leadership and leading with empathy. And empathy means, for me, it's a measure of impact. How do the people who report to you or the people who work with you feel about you? How do you make them feel? Because I can tell you, the leaders who have had a change in my life are the ones who've taken an interest in who I am beyond work. I'll give you an example of 10 years back, I was working at a certain organization. I think it's even more than 10 years. And we had a managing director who was very open in terms of, there was no much protocol in booking a meeting with him. He was the kind of leader who you'd go to his office, you had a purpose, but he'll be interested. He told me something about savings and investment that has stuck with me. At that time, I was an officer. This is an MD. So impact is about how you make people feel. And we have to learn to lead with empathy. There's something that people say that I don't agree with, that truth must hurt. Because in leadership, you will be responsible for giving feedback. But feedback can be given in a human way, because the objective is you want to create an environment for everyone to thrive. Because when everyone thrives, then you're able to achieve the objectives that you had set out for. Yes. So impact is how you make people feel.
Wow.
Yeah.
Leading with empathy.
Yeah.
What about you, Claire?
When you look at it, I think because of my background and having done BDNO, I end up always looking for tools. So I agree. The values behind it, I agree. What Lilian said is core. Empathy is the the screw that holds everything else. But I've come up with there is a tool that you can use to be able to understand. One is allowing my team to measure me. So I create feedback twice a year, at the beginning of the year, in terms of what they don't like, what they do like, and what they would like to see from me. Those are the three things. What didn't you like? And then I also try to structure it. We don't make it so broad, because then it can get out of work. Maybe you don't like how I dress. Well, which I should consider. But I mean, just trying to keep it more business focused. And then we sit through. I look at that, and sometimes, many times, it touches even those who manage them directly. And so going right down to the team and sharing a report that cuts out and maintains anonymity so that they can be open. And then we share and say, hey, this is what the expectation is. This is where we are not doing well. So what are some of the initiatives that we can put in place? And sometimes it's focused on a specific leader or a specific team. So that in that case, then they would have to work on that plan themselves. I mean, it's not the entire team. And then having a calendar of initiatives or programs that can deliver that, and then measuring again in the fourth quarter to see, based on what we had put out, based on how we had targeted ourselves, where we wanted to see ourselves. So you must target yourself. How have we performed?
Wow. Thank you for those insights. do you think, Winnie, in terms of measuring the impact?
I think beyond the financial impact, I think the other thing would be just checking the employees' well-being, mental just clarity. Are they okay? Are they able to? Have you seen a trend of say sicknesses? As in, are people able to balance work and life? I think that's the other impact that I would say you could actually check in terms of whether your leadership is actually working. Sometimes some leaders bring out the worst in people, sometimes they bring out the best in people. So I think that's also something that you can check. What's the employee situation? I think the other thing is just look at the culture. Are people do people have the culture of asking questions, just opening up, just speaking out in the event that they have a divergent view from the leader? Are they always free to ask, or are there repercussions that come from it? I think that culture, when you see a culture where people actually speak up, I think that speaks to also how your leadership has been in terms of whether they are actually afraid, they fear speaking out because of the repercussions. I think the other thing that I would think about is just how strong relationships are around the office or around your environment. Sometimes people are dying without anyone knowing. People are having pressure without anyone knowing what is happening. So I think those are some of the things that I think about in terms of the impact that you can also check in terms of how your leadership is.
Wow.
Lovely.
Very, very lovely. Great insights. Kindly, to our listeners, keep on engaging us with our on the chat feature. Please keep on engaging us. We all agree that these are grateful insights. And these ladies indeed are living with intentionality and also leading with intentionality. So to move on to our next question, can you share an example where intentional leadership transformed a team or an organization that you've worked with before? An example.
I think I liked, there's a particular organization, and it's the same one that I'll give an example with. We had, I think we used to have them on a quarterly basis, and there would be monthly checkings that would lead up to the quarterly. And what we had was tracking of what we'd call employee benefits, which would be bonus. Are we tracking? And it would be tied to, are we achieving the objectives that we had set out for? And this created, and it was such an open forum. So you would have the parameters set out and they would be projected, and you'd be able to tell, are we meeting, the insurance space? Are we meeting the gross written premium? Are we meeting profitability? How is our debtors? And we'll be able to engage each other to learn which function is struggling, and because of the metric that we can be able to see there. And that kind of openness and that kind of engagement, then everyone knew what are we working towards. Are we close to meeting our objective? Then people know once performance management is done, then there's an expectation of increment and bonus. So it was not something that was done by a committee hidden somewhere. It was something that was open to everyone. Even myself then, because I grew in that organization, I joined as an officer, left as a manager. Then I would be able to tell where are we headed as an organization. So everyone knows. And it was interesting to the level of you would know, people would even be interested to know there's a particular business in the market. The marketing or the underwriting team is having a challenge locking it in. And people would even use so everyone is, it's such an amazing thing when everyone is working towards. And I'd also give the organization that I'm in right now, everyone is clear about the mission and vision. What are we seeking to do, which is to change people's lives? Then you know in your docket where you're playing at, then am I contributing towards that? So openness and having metrics that you're measuring is very important.
I like the aspect of openness and engaging from top down, bottom up, all that, and everyone being involved. And this boils down to culture. You had mentioned about culture. So how does an organization build a culture where everyone is involved to achieve the same vision or the goal?
I think it's again on the daily actions, the daily activities that we do. I think that speaks a lot because, as Lillian has said, there are times when you actually put in plans in place and you check in to just see what exactly have you done. I think that also speaks to also celebrating the small wins. Sometimes you just you have a roadmap. This is where you intend to get at the end of the day. What have you done? Are you celebrating your wins? Are you looking back and just checking from when we started till now? At least we have made some progress. Are we celebrating that? I think that culture of just also celebrating your daily activities, I think it comes a lot in handy. Where even as an organization, we just set quarterly sessions to just go through the objectives that have been set. It also builds morale in employees, where you feel that yes, the energy you have put in has actually been rewarded. I think that that also speaks the culture when you actually value the input from your employees. I think that is one way of building a good culture where people appreciate the work that you're actually doing.
Going back to you, Claire, thank you so much, Winnie. And I'm looking at the tone at the top. You've sat in both. And as much as we talk about this, the policies in place, we have the, in terms of benefits for the employees, if you see they work hard, they're going to get a good salary, if you see. But you sitting there, that tone at the top, how can you speak to emerging leaders and telling them this is how we create or build a culture, as much as what Winnie and Lilian have shared with regards to openness, engagement, celebrating those small wins? You now sitting there, how can you help? Or even the employees that you work with?
I think one of the things I was sitting here and listening to culture and thinking how not too long ago I said culture is the number one most important thing in human engagement in organizations. I do believe culture does its strategy for breakfast because it's the culture that drives what is going to be delivered. Now, in response to what you've asked about creating the tone at the top, from my personal experience, and there are many other ways I'm sure the ladies here can share, has been ensuring that I continue to be an advocate for keeping our pulse check on the culture. And how do you do that? By ensuring that you intentionally set up activities in everything that we do that that ensure that we talk to the culture, that people understand the culture that is appreciated, that drives the business. Winnie talked about sharing the culture, and I think yes, it's key. You share it. What are some ways? Like we have contact centers in customer experience as one of the units that deliver in many organizations today. And you can tell an agent, my KPI, my key KPI is daily to pick 50 calls. Or you can tell me my key KPI is to pick 50 calls and ensure that I empower customers while doing it. Same thing, two different ways of communicating it. When the agent understands that picking these calls and supporting the customer is to be able to equip and empower them, I kid you not, the way they deliver service becomes different rather, because it's about enabling and equipping and empowering. And they begin to understand what their role in the organization is. And now cascading that likewise across some of the ways. Winnie also talked to this about rewarding or recognizing. It's not always about rewards, but celebrating the cultures that are appreciated or that are being driven within the organization by recognizing individuals who uphold that culture. For example, are some of the ways I think from the top. So from the top, then you would now, advocate for that being clearly communicated in people's KPIs, come up with the recognition models for celebrating those successes or those wins that we need talked to, and so on and so forth.
Thank you so much. So let's just go back to impact. And I want all of us to just answer this with your own way. What advice would you give to emerging leaders who want to create meaningful impact early in their career? In our audience, I believe we have emerging leaders that are there and they would want to hear you in terms of advising them. What would you advise them if they want to create meaningful impact early in their careers?
I would say have a clear goal of where you want to go. The goal is going to be very audacious because everyone has aspirations about themselves, but also be very clear about your values because how you achieve those goals matters. We say the end doesn't justify the means. So be very clear about what values you have because then that creates, we are a product of the experiences that we carry. So I believe legacy is something that is not at the tail end because that's a tie legacy to impact. Legacy is something that we live out every day, and every day is a collection of the experiences. So when you're clear about your objective, when you're clear about your values, then you every day when you look at yourself in the mirror, you're comfortable with who you are and what you bring to the world. So that is very important for leaders. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, I think for me also it would be the advice would be first to lead yourself. I think being aware of yourself, just being aware of who you are, what are your strengths, what are your weaknesses. I think that also comes in handy because before you're able to even lead someone else, you need to know who you are, how you will impact someone else. I think that for me is key. I think the other thing for me as advice that I would give is to have also very mindful conversations. Always listen more than you also speak, because in listening you also learn a lot. I think leadership is there's no one way, but you could easily learn from so many people and how their leadership styles have also changed. I think for me, mindful listening, mindful communication is very important, where you listen more than you also speak, because in the listening you also tend to understand what it is that people are going through, what exactly, how exactly you can bring them up in terms of bringing up their strengths. I think that would be key for me. Yeah.
Amazing. A good listener is a good leader.
Mm. I think it's connected to what both Lilian and Winnie said, and I'm going to come to you surprisingly because you said this in the past when we've engaged. First determining, because you're an emerging leader, what kind of leader do you want to be? That becomes your North Star first. So defining that, or else, like was earlier shared, you move in autopilot, and anything that happens in any season is how you operate. And you can imagine what kind of leader that is. They're up, nobody really knows who they are. So when you determine what you want to be, or the kind of leader you see yourself being, now to get there, we go down the direction that Lilian said in terms of values. So then what values do I need to be that leader, and working towards those values? And then when you look at what kind of values you would need to be, then you look at what is your baseline, what Winnie said, where am I now? What kind of leader am I now? So what is the gap? And then when you know that gap, then I believe it goes back to intentionally designing a plan of investing in myself as a leader on where I need to be. And the investment is in networks and relationships. The investment might be in studying, and the investment might be in all sorts of activities that now you need to do to close the gap to working towards the kind of leader you would like to be. Yeah.
Wow. Amazing. Very great insights. And as we wrap up, I would ask you, ladies, how do you see intentional leadership evolving in the next briefly?
I think and it's something that is already happening. It's one being you're not different people, or you're not playing different roles. And what I mean is living holistically. Let me say, I give an example of when I experienced Lorna as a parent, as a risk professional, then it's one person because your values are shared across. And I think that's what is coming through with how people are positioning themselves as brands, because then you're showing all aspects. We are humanizing leadership. We are not saying we just need to see you in the work environment. We also want to see how do you live in your community? How do you live in the other roles that you play? So that is something that is coming out. I think leadership is becoming more and more humanized, and there's a lot of push and drive for holistic living. And that means we have to be very intentional, and we have to be very vulnerable in what we are projecting out there.
Well, thank you. Winnie?
I think for me, something that we might see in the near future is that purpose-driven leadership, as opposed to the title kind of leadership, where it's all about the title. I think this part about the purpose-driven, where there is clarity of mind, where exactly is it that you're taking people. I think in terms of your values, what exactly do you stand for, and in terms of intentionality, what is it that you intend to bring impact to the organization, as in what impact do you intend to bring. I think that is the future. I think that will be the future in terms of your purpose driven. What purpose and how are you driving this purpose in the organization?
You had said a decade, 10 years. 10 years today is very fast moving. And why do I say that? I say that because we're talking about AI, and we're seeing how it's fast moving and changing delivery in the workplace. And because it's, there's a lot of shift towards technological advancement that wasn't there in the past. In the past, your technical skill could hold you. And so it meant a lot to be Dr. So-and-so, Professor so-and-so. And the more skilled you were in your field, the more, you are likely to grow up the leadership ladder. Yeah, I'm sure you all agree. But that is fast changing. I believe the focus will be in the more skilled you are in the softer skills like empathy that was mentioned earlier and the like, and engagement and all these things, then the more likely you will be to grow as a leader, because then you'll be focusing on the humanistic strengths, which will be needed more, because I believe technology will have sorted out much of the technical skill in delivery. So then the future becomes those softer skills, understanding, emotional intelligence, in that kind of direction. Yeah.
Wow. Thank you so much to our co-authors of Why Intentionality Matters book. Please do not forget to purchase this book. And thank you so much, our listeners. To everyone who participated, we really appreciate you for joining us. And we thank you even for your questions and your comments. And indeed, intentionality drives clarity. Clarity drives impact. And impact is what strengthens leaders, teams, and organizations. My name is Lorna Abaki, and it's been a pleasure moderating this session. Wishing you all a purposeful and intentional week ahead. Bye.